Welcome to the last of our discussion of the implications of theism. And we said that if theism is true, if God exists, then therefore we have to believe in miracles. And we already talked about the refutations or the counter arguments of Norman Geisler, an American philosopher, against the arguments of David Hume, who says that miracles are not possible. We also said that according to Norman Geisler, David Hume confuses believability with possibility. Just because something is not believable, it doesn't follow that it's not possible. Second, Norman Geisler said that David Hume also confused probability with evidence. What does that mean? Let me put that in simple terms. I was in high school. I watched a, a basketball league in our neighborhood, and adult players were playing. They were doing things, they were practicing, and the ball got on my end. So I took the ball, I dribbled it a little bit, and then from a distance of more than half court, I threw the ball and it went in, ringless. Everyone looked at me like, wow, how did you do that? Again, the probability of that happening again is very, very low. The probability of that even happening was very low. Yet, no one will argue that that did not happen because we all saw that. The ball definitely went in. That is evidence that it happened, but the probability is low. Just because something has low probability, that is not evidence against the existence of that event. As I've mentioned, history is full of rare unrepeatable events. Those events have very low probability, yet they happened, they were recorded, they were in books, we know they happened. That's what makes history actually. When we think of the word history, you think of rare events. The probability of them happening is low, but those events happen. That's why you call them historical, the very term historical. Now, this is history, we say, because we are referring to rare events that actually happened, and even though they have low probability, they still happen. It's like winning a lottery ticket, you know? What are the odds that you will win a lottery? But just because the probability is low does not mean that you will not believe when it happens. You won in the lottery. Will you stop believing? Oh no. The chances are low. It can't be true. It may seem unbelievable, but again, believability is not the same as possibility. It may be unbelievable, but it is possible. It may have low probability, but if it happened, it certainly happened. Low probability is not an evidence against something to happen. So the issue is not whether an event is actually a regular event or a normal event or a rare event, which is actually the third premise of David Hume. The issue is whether we have good evidence for the event, whether we have captured it, whether we have recorded, whether we have witnessed it. Hume is actually arguing in a circle. Instead of evaluating the veracity or the truthfulness of the evidence for each miracle claim, Hume starts out by ruling out belief in miracles in advance before he even starts his argument because he believes that it's not possible. If you start with that, of course, you will arrive in the same conclusion. My challenge for each and every one is to have an open mind. If you want to explore the possibility of a thing, whatever it is, let's say it's a murder, you want to know whether this person committed the murder or not. If you are inclined to believe that this person is the murderer, you have to be ready to accept that if evidence says that he's not the murderer, you're willing to accept it. If your mind is not open, then don't even go into it. Don't even argue. Don't even start with a conversation. Because a truly open mind will accept all possibilities. For example, I believe in God. I am a theist because I examined the evidence. Once upon a time, I challenged theism. I considered atheism. I checked the evidence. I was prepared to abandon the beliefs that I was raised with. My mother said, God is real. I challenged that idea. I was prepared to accept that God was not real. God is not real. I entertained that thought. If the evidence goes against belief in God, Therefore, I will be an atheist. Right now, I'm telling you, if there is good evidence for atheism, if there is good argument that will contradict monotheism, I will follow that. Because I follow the evidence. When I entertain something, I entertain it with an open mind. The problem with our current culture is we say we are open-minded, but before we even start, before we even enter the conversation, we already have our notion of what we want to believe, and regardless of the evidence, we stick with what we believe in. How about you? Before you enter in a conversation, before you listen to this, before you hear this, is your mind open? Are you ready to follow the evidence? Because if you're not ready to follow the evidence, then don't charge theism with irrationality. Don't say that theists are irrational people who just believe in fairy tales. Because the ones who are irrational are those who are not willing to accept evidence, and those who start the argument or the conversation with a conclusion already in mind and is not willing to change their beliefs.